Welcome to Negotiating Happiness, the show that helps you find happiness, success, and balance in your work and life. I'm Adriana Fierastrau, your host for this journey into entrepreneurship and personal growth. We're broadcasting live on 107.7 and 105.3 FM in New Orleans as part of the United Public Radio Network. We explore the latest strategies, insights, and stories from successful entrepreneurs and experts. From managing stress to building a thriving business, we've got you covered. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Adriana, your host of Negotiating Happiness, and we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 and 107.7 FM in the beautiful city of New Orleans. If you wanted to sit back and watch some of our shows, some of our shows are actually on Roku TV, so you just have to go in and type in UFO Paranormal, and you can watch us on your big screen TV. So, welcome. It's been quite some time since I've been on here by myself, so I hope you guys are going to be able to tune in and send out some questions or comments. I would love that. We are going to be talking about how to strategize for 2025 and how to hopefully, wrap our head around planning for our business so that we can profit from it or take advantage of our setup in the future. I decided last year that after being able to take off some time off from my business, that I needed to kind of spread the message a little bit more, because it was amazing that my business still ran while I was still able to go on vacation for a couple of weeks. So here I am. I'm just trying to spread the word. If you guys have any questions, just remember we are live and we are taking them. I am looking forward to seeing some of them. I will also be sharing my screen to show you guys some of the things that I'll be talking about. I'm just going to do a quick little intro. If you haven't heard of me before, or if you haven't seen any of our episodes, I am Adriana Fierastrau, and I am an online business manager. You'll be able to see right there on OntarioAssistant.com. This is where my services live, and typically I don't like doing intros about myself because it's just me talking about me. Usually I have really interesting guests on the show, and they're, small business owners, entrepreneurs, and it's really weird for me to sit here and talk for an hour by myself, but here we go. So I started out my journey into this digital world via being a virtual assistant, and I quickly realized that I could do so much more than that, and it sort of evolved into this project of what else can we do? What else can we accomplish with tech? What else can we, figure out how to make efficiency a little bit better? So I started focusing on operations. So if you haven't seen me on before, just know that I am a realist, and I will share the bad and the good, not just the good. So I'm hoping that you guys enjoy and take some of these practical tips in, and know that they've been either tested out by myself or the people that I work with. And if you haven't seen me before, I love meeting new entrepreneurs and other business people, and I call them my biz friends. And thankfully, because of social media, I was able to do that, to make some biz friends in that capacity, right? So again, I founded Ontario Assistant as an online business manager, and I basically turned chaotic business operations into streamlined success stories, I would say. And if they're not yet success stories, they're in progress, and you're able to reap some of those benefits right away. And when I'm not helping entrepreneurs scale, or when I'm not putting in smart automations and systems, I am literally chasing down a 4-year-old. So I am also a mom. So I don't know if that is something you can relate to, but obviously you know that our time is limited. And I also try to be here on the show, and basically when I talk about negotiating happiness, I talk about, trading my time to build a business, but also to do the things I really want to do that, make me happy. So here I am. My background was in law before. I've worked with, doing graphics editing at the university when I was going to University of Toronto. I worked in I guess, the private side of insurance as well. I've worked in various industries, and I've been able to gather skills from here and there that have helped me kind of put this forward, and have helped other entrepreneurs figure out how to navigate this world. So I'm all about the practical. So let's sort of dive in. I did promise you guys that I would help you, kind of put in some exercises in place that will help you come up with like a practical strategy for 2025 and potentially further on as well. So let's get into it. Just bear with me while I pull up my information here. I'm hoping everybody's weekend was good, and that we're, just a reality check that we're still in January. It feels like we're now in February, but we are not. Here we go. So what's actually working for everybody in 2025 could be very different. Typically, when I talk to my audience, I talk to audiences that have service-based businesses, not product-based, but some of the things that we talk about could easily be implemented into the product side of things as well. If you do have questions and I don't know the answer to, just send them anyway, because I will figure out an answer for you and I will get back to you. You will most likely find me on Instagram or through my website if you wanted to get into contact. And I will put into the comments in here if you want to contact me. So if you need to click on a link, you can go right into the comments and you could do that. So just remember, you can leave comments, and you'll get addressed online right now live, or you can contact me via ontarioassistant.com. So for anybody not familiar, Ontario is a province in Canada. So I am actually Canadian, but I work with all kinds of businesses, including in the States or in Europe sometimes. So don't be shy. We like geography around here. So don't be shy to tune in. Okay, so I've just sent that in there through the comments if you guys wanted to click on the link directly. And I just wanted to address something really quickly in terms of operations and how you're running your business. I guess now we're in the year 2025. We are changing the way that we look at marketing. We're changing the way that we look at how we present ourselves to the world. And so that means that client expectations have also changed. So if you are still in that mindset of, I've had this business for 10, 15 years and it's worked the way it is, that's great. It means you have a really good business model, but that doesn't mean that, marketing or the times of today won't catch up with how you're getting your leads or how you're getting your customers to come right through the door. So what does that mean for 2025? I mean, I feel like we've known this for a couple of years now. We're bombarded with content. We consume content at a rate that is not typically healthy. So we have to be very careful about what we consume, also what we put out there. So what does that mean for you as a business? It means that, you want to put out things that represent you, but that are also getting you some engagement. If you're still worried about becoming viral because you think it's going to help your business, I don't know that that's necessarily true. I've seen some horror stories that I've mentioned before on how people have become viral, and they were typically a product-based business, and they couldn't keep up with the demand. I mean, that's, I think, where you would have the most impact is if you did have a product, because with services, typically you trade time for that, unless you are selling courses or unless you are putting out, kind of a resource-based type of product or digital product, I guess that's evergreen, that could be reused over and over, then that could be a problem, because then, if it's not as simple as that, then you might not have the operations in place for it. So I would suggest, don't worry about becoming viral. Don't worry about the number of followers, because followers don't automatically convert into sales. So let's just think about how we communicate to our clients clearly and effectively, right? And not have to worry about that. I think we should use social media as a tool. We shouldn't let it dictate how we spend our time, because as we'll see in some of the exercises that I'm going to show you, that your time is your most valuable asset, and we can't be spending it all on trying to create, all kinds of posts and engagement and whatnot. And this is not something that you haven't heard before. This is just kind of a refresher, even for 2025. This is the attitude that you should be taking. And still, with the insane amount of tech and platforms, we need to realize that we have to be very adaptable as small businesses. And if we are not, we are going to suffer. So that means being open to changing your processes and finding different ways of being efficient. Again, this is all common sense, but if you are kind of, really into the one process that you have, maybe you don't need to kind of disassemble it all, because if it's not broken, don't fix it. But you need to look at, could this be more efficient? Could this be something that will have to change in the future, right? How would 10 more clients become, super overwhelming for you? Could the process handle that? Or is it that you need to reach like 100 more clients for it to change in that situation? This is something that you have to ask yourself and do kind of an audit on your own. Okay. What else are we looking at for 2025? Like, have you had a chance to sit down and figure out, are sales your focus, or is it more time off? We're going to look at both to see, what our actual workload looks like. So when you talk about sort of communication for 2025 in a small business, I think everybody that's looking to focus more on email marketing needs to realize that hypersegmentation is not the standard. It's not something that you should implement every so often. It's actually the standard, because it's become way more effective. We get 1 million emails in our inbox, and if the emails that are coming through are not even being interacted with, and it's sort of a waste. But if it's emails from people that we want to hear from, then we'll most likely open them and interact with them, and eventually use services or purchase things from those emails. So hypersegmentation means, if somebody is directing a solution at me that is, for me, for my age category, for my geography, for the problems that I'm experiencing, then great. If somebody's talking about something that doesn't apply to me, then that means they haven't done enough of a segmentation on their email list to understand that you have to speak differently to the different kinds of people, right? So I'll give you an example from me is, why would I send out, services that imply that I will show up to their site or send out flyers for them or print out things for them, when maybe the majority of the segmented group of my emails are all digital businesses. If they're all digital and remote, they don't need any of that stuff. It's just a very, basic example. So you have to spend a little bit more time getting to know your email list before you can actually see some really good results. These days, AI not only is creating a lot of the content that people are going through, it's also helping personalize at a large scale. So you have to be very careful, and you have to sort of train whichever AI model you use to help you with that. So that's something that you kind of have to keep in mind for 2025. It's only going to get faster. It's only going to get more common, right? I was talking to somebody, and we were saying that, remember how when we're looking at things or looking for information, we no longer go to the library and check, a book that's in that industry or sector. We just Google things. Well, in 10 years, maybe our kids won't be Googling things. They will be asking AI direct questions. They're getting really good at prompting. So we just kind of have to think in that direction. Right. And what are some of the things that you can use for communication for 2025? This is a really good audit to do, actually. How are you speaking to your clients? Are you, using messaging? Are you using emails? Are you sending voice notes, or are you actually texting? Are you doing a combination of those things? I do a combination of those things. Are they effective at keeping clients engaged and interested in some of the things that you're doing when you're working with them? But what about when you're not working with them? How are you communicating with them? So obviously, communication is really important. The next thing that I sort of wanted to talk about was your operations and how to sort of handle that. So how do you change some of the things how do you make things faster? So let me share here a screen with you. Okay. So what we're looking at here is a very simple operations check-in list that you should probably have up every year to make sure that operations wise you are doing the best that you can, and does anything need to be double checked or changed? Has anything changed that will trigger any of these things, such as contracts and policies or insurance or business license? Typically, depending on any government accounts that you have, or if you're collecting tax on behalf of the government, every time you change your address or whatever, you need to go and update that with the government as well. Things to look at: marketing, CRM. Is your CRM platform like Honeybook, Dubsado, Monday.com? Like, are any of those, fulfilling all of your needs? Are you underusing them? A lot of us are underusing our platforms because we just don't know, all of their capabilities. This is something that you can take a look at again, because this is a fresh year, to say, hey, could I actually get rid of some of these tasks by implementing some of the tech, because I'm already paying for it. It's already in, working for me. What can I do? And this would probably be a really good time to do that with. Now, bookkeeping, that's a sore spot for me. It's something that I hate doing. So this is definitely something that we need to kind of check off at the beginning of the year to make sure that our finances are okay as well. And if there's any reports that we need to be pulling, this is a time where you should be looking at, what are your predictions are for 2025 in terms of sales, in terms of expenses. Do you have to cut down on expenses? How are we doing in that area? Or seeing, even if you have subcontractors you work with or employees, like how much of that, how much of your revenue has gone to those services, and has that contributed to your growth, right, in sales? Website, there's always a good idea to have a website refresh. Look at your social media platforms and your standard operating procedures. If you have people working for you, you should probably have some of those in place, in terms of, I need to delegate this to other people, so here's how you do it. These guides are already in here. It's super helpful, and it alleviates some of the time off of you for training people, or at least offering these guides up so that they could do things for you while you do something else, like networking or development. What's your client experience look like? Is this something that you could improve for your clients, right? Are you making them wait in between? Are you giving them enough information? All of these things are probably already swooshing through your head, every day possibly, but at the beginning of the new year is a really good start for you to start adding it to your calendar of actual to-do things, so that you don't create this backlog of things like, oh yeah, I have to do that, or oh no, this is still on my mind. And team and efficiency, this is just something that you're going to have to work on consistently. If you do have a team, then you have to reevaluate roles. And this is kind of what I wanted to look at for the first little bit, which was, let's look at our roles for the year. This could be difficult if you're just starting out, because it might just be you. So what should be happening is that you are the brain of this operation. So this is you. So you start putting yourself down for all of the things that you're going to be doing, right? So this is the role up at the top. And then the next few rows are for the who's actually doing it, right? Do you have somebody else doing it or not? If you're finding that you have to put yourself down for every single category, that's probably an issue, because you typically don't have enough time to do all of it. Now, how can we fix this? We can fix this by giving ourselves a CEO day, or a sort of a day where you just work on development and seeing, okay, what actually needs to get done, right? So like the doer is probably where most of your money comes from. So this is super important. Who is the doer? Is it also you? Then you need to find some balance. Or maybe you have subs. So sub number one, I'm obviously not using names here, but make sure that you're seeing a balance into, hey, I can't possibly do everything. So for example, another role would be a bookkeeper, right? So who's doing it? Then you have a bookkeeper for that. And what do? They're putting in expenses and they're pulling reports, right? Or they're sending your taxes over to your accountant, or whatever the case may be. This is just an example for you of lay out what are the most important parts, the roles in your business, and put those into actual categories, make it visual so that you can see, hey, I can't possibly be doing all of these things by myself. Like, who's also doing the internal work? Is it you still, or is it another sub that you have going on? Right? So rearrange some of these things. Sometimes people get virtual assistants, and this is definitely, and I mean, love it. That's where I started, but they don't have the processes in place yet. So they end up doing a lot of instructing for the virtual assistants, which they need. So it ends up looking like there's two people working on internal work, and you're like, why is this happening? It's because you don't have the systems and there's no process in place. So sometimes you need to like reevaluate and say, hey, instead of you doing this internal work, I actually want you to sit down with me to create this process so that we don't have to do this over and over and over again. So this is a really good way of looking at, like, how can I, alleviate some of the work, but also make sure that the business is still going on. So you could have, 10 different tasks for each role. It's just good to reevaluate, to say, you know what, for 2025, I don't want to be doing the internal work. So some of the internal work for me is like the marketing, or the updating of the website, or the actual sending of the invoices, or keeping an eye out on how the payments are coming in, so on and so forth, right? Now, another thing that I typically tend to do in January is I set out what my time off is. So one, here's a good tip, is because if you're booking flights to go somewhere, typically they are cheaper if you do it, with a couple months in advance. So for example, I'm going to be away in March for 1 week, and I'm going to be away in August to September for 3 weeks. So I tend to put it in there. Oh, hello. Hello, Melissa. So nice to pop in. Thanks for popping in, guys. I always love hearing from you guys. There we go. And I'm then planning on taking in December. I think I want at least 1 week off. And then I can look at it for, is this balance? Is all my week, all my time off like at the end of the year, or is it the beginning of the year? And there are other holidays in here. So if let's say, I know that we have in July and August, we've got, long weekends or whatnot, or we're planning to stay home for a week, or whatever the case may be. So I add them all in here. And then you have to keep in mind that on a regular month, you have 20 working days on average. So you don't have as much time as you think you do. If you want to give yourself that CEO day where you can do all the networking and the development, then typically you only have 16 working days a month. That doesn't seem like a lot of days, right? But we don't understand that, so to speak. So for example, out of those 16 days, I'm left over with, in March, I'm only left over with, realistically, 11 days to get all of that done. January's almost done, so we're just not going to NA. In February, if I'm not taking any time off, I think we have one long weekend day, so that would be like 1 day that is off. Oh. Then we typically only have 15 days of work, so on and so forth, right? So here would be 16, I think there's a long weekend in there. So we're going to put 15. There's another long weekend in there somewhere. Or is it just the one? I don't know. Let's just put 15 just for the sake of it, because it's the holiday. And then in August, I'm actually going to be gone till almost the end there. I am working one of those weeks. But typically, so even if I just put 2 to 3 weeks here, realistically, even if I work the 1 week, I think I might have, what is it, 16 days minus the 2, so 10, so maybe 6 days, right? So, I mean, that's not a lot of time to schedule everything in, including meetings, right? In September, same thing. I think I'm going to have 15 days. In October, 16 days. November, 16 days. And in December, if I take a week off plus the holidays, I don't think we're going to get more than 10 working days in there, right? So yeah, Melissa says that's not as much time as you think you have when you lay it out like that. Good thing to put in perspective. Exactly. And this is why I try to do it, because I am very guilty of letting my calendar be flooded with meeting invites, because I want to talk to everybody and I want to do all these things and work on new projects, but it's not exactly fitting. So this actually really helps too when you're thinking about how much time do I really have to give people with my services. So this is why I talk about prepackaged services are a lot easier, because you know how much money you're going to be making as an entrepreneur in the time that you actually have. So like, if you look at this isn't a lot of time, right? Because this accounts for weekends, it accounts for holidays, and it accounts for vacation. This is not a lot of days for us to live and make money and, be productive members of society and be there present for our children or our family. So the way that you do that, so then I do like a quick kind of outline. By the way, I'm not even going to bother with January because I think it was a mess for everybody, just muddled right through it. For February, I think we have 1 day off. So that's why I put 16 days. So I just put 1 day here. What do I need to accomplish, or what do I need to make sure that happens in February, right? So for example, February and March are really big they're tax season. So taxes. I also need to make sure I have 2 projects on top of my retainer, plus retainer. So this is a lot of stuff that I need to do before before I can look at, okay, is that enough time off? Well, yeah, because I only really have 15 working days. And again, March is another thing. So taxes need to get done. Is there something specific that you wanted to add to it? Like, are you working on other projects? I really need to get writing, because I'm planning on writing a book. So it's not just that, it's taxes, it's writing time. Projects. I don't have any projects slotted in for March yet, but I do have the retainers right now. So again, for me, like, that's not a lot of time, and it also helps me prepare for when I am going away, which is in March. So I'm taking a week off, so I only have 11 days to do that. So maybe I won't be taking on any projects, right? Because I'm looking at the time that I have. April, May, June, July seem like they're really clear. So this would be really good. So I can map out, let's say I could probably do 2 projects in April, right? Same with May. But typically April is busier. So I'd say 3 projects here. And then for the rest of it is 2 projects, 2 projects, 2 projects. Now for August, I only have 6 days. So I'm not going to put, I shouldn't have any expectations. I'm going to get a lot of things done unless I work with my sub. So this would be a very contractor heavy month, right? So the subcontractors need instructions. So I need to make sure that I have time to do that. And this is typically happening the month before as well. So you have to put the subcontractors in here as well. So this gives me kind of an idea of what my year is going to look like. With September, school is back on. So sometimes it takes a little bit of time to just get the kiddo settled in. There is a long weekend in there too, so maybe it's not as many days as we think we are, but typically, business tends to pick back up. And maybe it is projects again. Maybe you have to use subcontractors. This also helps you figure out, hey, where are my subcontractor heavy months where I have to kind of put out more of an expense than anything else, right? For October, same thing. I would hope that it's 2 projects, not more. For November, same thing. So now here's the tricky part. December seems to be kind of like the go, go, go for everybody because it is the end of the quarter, the end of the year. I would say that I wouldn't take on more than 1 project. Things come up though, so I wouldn't be surprised if this actually increases. But for now, looking at the time, if I only have 10 working days, right, then I would definitely want to make sure that I have enough time on here. Now, is this enough time to take off, right? So if I have two weeks here, 1 week here, that's 3 weeks. That's a lot more than a lot of people are used to, but I'm going to build my business in a way that I can take off even more time off and still have this run without me. This is why we have subcontractors or employees or so on and so forth. But when you really look at it, at the end of the day, that's not a lot of time to have for the entire year. So this is where, if you're not sure like me right now, I would go on to this next exercise of what are the projects by quarter and by either internal or projects and retainers, right? So this is where you can kind of plan it out. And also this is where sales comes in, because you're like, I want to sell 2 projects for April and I've got 0 right now. So what do I do with that, right? This will also dictate how much marketing you put in and how much time you need to spend to get those. If you've already got your projects, great. Then maybe you can focus on pushing some to another month, which you can quickly look at this and say, yep, this is it. This is where I've got it covered for. But before we go on, we are already past the halfway mark, which is always kind of crazy when we get into it. But I just wanted to do a really quick intro for anybody that's just tuning in now. We are live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. And you are listening to Negotiating Happiness. And I am your host, Adriana Fierastrau. And today we're talking about how to strategize and plan for maximum operational efficiency for not only now, but for the future as well, not just for this year, but maybe for the incoming years. We are taking one by one and how to plan out our workload and our time off so that we don't go crazy or get burnt out, because a lot of entrepreneurs have that sort of problem. Because we want to be able to last, we want to be able to build a successful business, but we also want to be able to live. So we had just gone over how many actual working days are in a year and how to plan for the appropriate amount of work that we have. And right now we're going to break it down even further of what your goals are, either internal projects or external, or what we would call like the client work, right? So the internal stuff, for example, I want to write a book and I want it to launch by November in Q4. So I would just say book November launch. What does that mean? If I want to have it launched for then, it means that I should be writing every single quarter. And I should be writing for the first 2 quarters and then maybe editing and formatting for the 3rd quarter. Okay. What are the expenses on this? Well, I have a consultant and also I need to take the time. So the expense might actually be some working time to do it. So consultant, this will be if I ask for consulting and then time in quarter 1. Same thing in quarter 2. I'm going to have to, editing with the consultant is going to be a much bigger expense in quarter 3. And I'm going to be doing my own formatting. So that'll take a lot more time. And the book launch, this will actually, I have to maybe purchase some books outright. So the books themselves will need to be purchased once they're published. So I have to keep that in mind. Maybe I will need the consultant on the launch. So I need to kind of keep that in my head. Now, we also want to do a small business sort of conference summit, whatever you want to put it on in words. If we want it to be in Q3, that means we need to be planning. We need to be planning conference. We need to be creating content and sourcing material. And that material could be anything, even if it's physical for goodie bags or material in terms of speakers, right? So what is the expense? I'm not quite sure yet. So what we could do is we could put in that we're going to need some subcontracting to help us get through it. Right? You can actually put numbers so that if you know for sure that this is what it'll cost you for that bit, it'll help so that you can start putting money aside and whatnot. So this planning and subcontracting, this is going to need to happen in Q2 as well. Then you're going to need to have and maybe in Q2, we also need to be dealing with the marketing of this. So that's another, maybe we're going to spend money on ads for it. So we need to keep that in mind. Please ignore my typos as I'm typing away here in front of you live. But here we need to do conference marketing and selling if there are any tickets. What is the expense? Again, subcontracting and ads for marketing. That's going to be a thing. What do I want to do in Q4 once the conference is over? I wanted to create digital product around planning. So that's going to cost me time in figuring out which platform to make it available in. So it's probably a platform subscription of some sort. Okay. So this could be endless. You could go on and on and on. But this is going to show you that you can't just keep saying yes to things, especially when you look up and you say in Q3, when I need to be editing and formatting, I'm actually going to, so Q3 is right here, right? So July, August, and September. I'm taking a huge gap in there of where I'm not going to be working. So I need to be very careful with the amount of days that I have. So this is when you pull out your calendar and you start already plugging some of these in for the rest of the year so that when you do make your calendar available for meetings and whatnot, and when you take on projects, you're not going to forget about all this and you're going to see it already pre-populated in your calendar. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Just double check here. If you're looking to keep adding to your list and this isn't working, this is a really good indicator too of maybe I just need to stop. Maybe I just need to say no. This isn't always the best thing for you to keep pushing on, because you're just going to be burnt out and you're not going to do a good job. I want to do a good job on my book. I want to do a good job on my conference, but it's just not possible if I continue to just overload myself and I don't have the time. Now, we're moving on to client work projects and retainers. Well, we already kind of decided in here, it'd be like February. So January, February, March, have 2 projects and taxes. So let's say we only have 2 projects and retainers, right? So for Q1, maybe we have 2 projects and our retainers. So let's say our retainers take up, I don't know, I'm just making this in here. Our retainers, let's say they take up out of the entire quarter, right? Just do some quick math. Let's say you've got, in a normal, typical quarter, you should have 16 days times 3. But I don't think that's the case here. So let's say we had 15, 30, 41. Let's say we had 40 days. Let's say my retainers take 25 working days out of everything. And then the rest of the projects, let's say they take up 10 days, right? And then this is just for the client work. So that means that I would only have 5 days for all of this to happen, right? Like you have to think of it in working days. So 5 times 8, you'd have 40 hours maybe to be able to get done whatever it is that you need to get done in Q1. So this is why it's really important to take these then and plug them into your calendar to see that. But, you know, realistically too, if I'm planning a conference or creating content for it in development, I could use some of the CEO days that I didn't take into account to do that. So this is almost like a fail safe for you to have to say, yes, I can actually do it in here. For Q2, we're planning on having, so here's Q2. We're planning on having 7 projects, right? Well, those 7 projects, and again, you could keep adding rows to this. It could be on and on and on. I'm just giving you like a really quick sort of wrap up, right? So 7 projects with my retainers, maybe minor retainers. It was a really busy quarter. Typically, they don't have a busy quarter, so we'll say they're only going to take 20 days. And with 7 projects, I would say they would take at least 20 days, and that's kind of like almost like my time there, right? For Q2. So I have to be very cognizant of the fact that I might need to use subcontracting a little bit more. So I would highlight it to be like, we need the money to be able to cover that, right? So then you go on, so on and so forth. You see what your actual time is like, and you need to start thinking of your time as money, right? Because that will also dictate when you actually need those subcontractors and not, because it doesn't always happen that way, right? So just continue going there. Now, once you have it, highly recommend go into your calendar and start actually plugging these things in. It's always good to have a check-in. So at the end of, you know, like Q1, it's like, was I on track? Do I need to adjust? Do I need to take some things out of Q2? This is exactly when you would do it to kind of keep yourself set up for the next couple of quarters. Now, here are some audits to consider for the year. I always do this with clients that I know that, you know, you don't have an unlimited amount of money or time or resources. So every year you should be making a list. You go through your expenses with your bookkeeper, make a list of all the subscriptions you pay for. I'll share this right away, as I used a platform for a quiz, and when you do the math on how much it costs every month versus what it yielded from it, it wasn't very successful. So that quiz platform is getting canceled. It's going to save like $50 a month. It might not seem like a lot, but that can go somewhere else, potentially to all of the ad spend that we're going to have to put through with marketing here and basically the 2 middle quarters of the year. But $50 US a month could be going towards that ad spend. So we're not adding more to it. We're actually just rejigging our resources. So there's a comment from Mel here. Great seeing the thought process behind planning. It's so simple, but we tend to overcomplicate it. We do, because we're so stressed out and we think that other people think in the same way that we do, but they don't. So it is really up to us to lay it all out, to say, hey, we need to work on this and we need to plan this. So bring your team in, like make them aware that, hey, this is what the thought process behind it is. It's not just like a random, you know, we're going to do this, and this, however we want it. And for the first little while, I think all entrepreneurs do this, where they just do it how, you know, the opportunity presents itself, and that's okay. But after a couple of years and being able to, you know, recognize some of these patterns of when you're busiest, what time of the year is best for you for things, then this is what you should be doing, because it definitely comes in handy and you're not going to feel overwhelmed for the rest of the year, right? So definitely do an audit, see if are there any platforms that are not yielding the results that you want. Do you want to cancel them? Do you want to pause them? Do whatever you need to do to save up some money, and because you want to use it for your next projects. So for task audits, I've talked about this many, many times. And it's kind of like, it goes back to these roles here, right? So if you have multiple roles in your company and you can see the tasks, so like development, networking, like client work, internal work, like social media, marketing, whatever you want to add to just make the list. So all of those things that need to happen, They typically happen in a pattern until you decide to change it, until it fits somebody else's role better. So there's this game that we play with the keep, automate, delegate, and delete. So as your business gets larger and larger, or it's scaling or whatever, you would then put down one of these lists every year and say, okay, I can tell you cost efficiency wise, like operations wise, the more you automate, the easier it'll be for you. And you don't necessarily need your VA to take on absolutely everything, or your OBM, your online business manager. And if you think that it can't be automated, but it's a repetitive task that you have to do, respectfully, you're probably wrong. There probably is a solution. You just need somebody to point it out to you or to show you that. And this is where people like me come in, where we kind of like dissect everything and say, okay, we can at least automate a part of it, or whatever the case may be. And another one that we get a lot of resistance on is delete. Nobody wants to delete any tasks off their plate because they're used to doing it this way. But I guarantee you, after experiencing growth a couple of times, there are tasks that you're doing that are absolutely unnecessary now because you're just used to doing it and it's working for you. So you think it's fine, but you actually need to save yourself more time. The more time you save yourself, the more you have gained. Even if your sales stay the same, so your profits stay the same, but if you're working less time, your profits have gone up. It's just math. It's just math. The more time you put in, the more you lose out. Or you think you're making more sales, but you're working, pardon my expert, like a dog. You're working like a dog to get through it all. How much are you actually profiting off of it? Because your time is the most important part anyway. So this is one of the exercises that we go through and say, you know what, I think I myself would like to keep doing sometimes people say, I like doing social media. That's fine. But how long is it taking you? Because if you hired somebody or if you delegated that to somebody else and it takes them half the time, that's a better business decision than it would be for you to keep it just because you enjoy it. Right. So there has to be some balance there. And a lot of, I have a problem with this too, with bookkeeping. Like I've kept it for too long and I absolutely hate it, but it's because I've had some issues in the past. And I don't want to repeat those, but this is something that I need to work on and say, this has to be delegated. So immediately for me, for 2025, bookkeeping needs to go. It just needs to go. Right. So what do I delete out of this whole thing? I think I'm going to delete some of my old planning forms that I used to send out and just maybe make some new ones so that it doesn't need to be a part of the process anymore when we send out those forms, right? So that's what we need to delete. What do I want to keep doing myself? Definitely the networking and the discovery calls for now, right? That's something that I want to do, because I am still the main person in my business. What do I want to automate? I think I want to automate more of the marketing. And I want to automate my feedback process. Right? So this is what I'm working on to doing. And just remember, these can save you time, but they can also add time if you're deciding to go backwards and say, no, I want to keep some of these things. But really, this should be the best. If you're just looking to be, the CEO, the brain behind this, the delegate column should be full. That's what you need to keep doing. Just make it full. And here's a thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, because we only have a couple of minutes left here. For 2025, you need to do some social media audits. I know that everybody uses it for marketing. There are different ways you can market, email marketing. You can create to a lead magnet. I had posted, this is one of my my posts from a while ago. It just kind of goes on to what are the steps of creating a lead magnet. And it goes through kind of guiding you to answer these questions 1 through 7, and then you'll be able to have an idea in your head already on how you should be putting this together. I still use Canva. Canva is amazing. I'm going to paste the link to this so that you guys can have it. It just goes right to my Instagram on there. Obviously, if you like the content, follow the account. But here is just in case this is what you wanted to do for some of your marketing, the post on creating lead magnets. Okay. So then you can just click on there and just kind of take screenshots or save the post, whatever it is that you wanted to do. That's the link for it. But if we are going to talk about a social media audit, let's do it quickly in like 2 minutes. You should be pulling your stats from your professional dashboard or from Meta and looking at what kind of posts worked for you in 2024. And I'm talking like, was it Reels? Was it long form, kind of like the longer posts? Was it the ones where you asked for engagement? Was it carousels? And the other thing that I saw for me is like the ones that had my face on them worked a lot better in engagement than the ones that didn't, that had some generic graphics, right? So is there a pattern in the visuals? And then what got the most engagement? So just start looking at what got the most likes, what got the most comments. Have you been responding to those comments? I had a piece of advice one time and it actually kind of worked out well. They said, you know, even if you don't get to your comments, go back into your older posts and start posting back, because it's pulling it back on people's feeds when you're responding to them. So just because you didn't get your engagement like right then and there in like the first 5 days doesn't mean that it can't improve when you are going back and engaging with your community and answering questions. So it's fine. Just keep going through your posts. It's like, oh, I didn't answer to this person, so I'm going to go in and reply to them, and actually reply with a message rather than a heart or just, and I'm guilty of this too because I'm doing things really quickly. But reply back with a message or a question, something that makes people want to respond back, because that's how you get more engagement. Once you have the answers to all of these questions, when you're looking at stats, that's what you take to your social media manager or to the person that's helping you with your strategy or yourself and say, these are the kinds of posts we're going to be focusing on, at least for the first quarter or second quarter, and then checking the stats again and seeing, oh yeah, these are actually working better, right? And another thing that people kind of forget to do or don't think about it, research what the online world is saying about these algorithms, research of what, you know, Instagram has put out to be like, what's working best? Because I'm pretty sure last time I checked it, Instagram was putting out engagement over like the amount of reels or the amount of, you know, hashtags or whatever the case is, and try to test it out, see if that works for your community, because sometimes it doesn't, it's not an overarching thing. It's about what works for the people that are looking at your content specifically, right? And my other question for people typically with social media audits is like, yes, I know you have like TikTok and Pinterest and YouTube and whatever else, but what is actually working for you? Like, where does your audience live in the business world? Do you need to slash TikTok because you're putting in time there where you should be putting it up here to make this work? You know, like what's the most that you can get out of your community? Is it Facebook? And on Facebook, how much engagement are you getting? Are you finding that you have to put ads up to get more engagement or to boost your posts, right? Like, these are all questions that we should be asking before posting. It is better to be consistent than it is to just kind of like splash it everywhere and see where it sticks, right? You only do that at the beginning so that you could see kind of where your people live. But if you already know where your people live in terms of like community or clients or whatever, then try and focus, right? So that's kind of where I'm sitting at for 2025 in terms of how do we plan for a better year. Obviously your calendar is your best friend and automation is your best friend. Try and automate as much as you can so that these days here throughout the year don't seem like they're not enough, because these are your man hours or woman hours, whatever you want. But that doesn't mean that your automations or your tech can't work behind the scenes for you. Right? That's the greatest thing about this, because you could be making sales or people could be going through your funnel or your process while you're sleeping. So use the tech, use the platform, test it out. A lot of these platforms let you have, you know, like 2-3 users for free. I was talking to somebody and I don't think they knew, I'm pretty sure Thinkific used to let you put a whole course up for free. It's only if you wanted to add more courses that they would charge you a subscription. There are platforms out there that will do that for you, including like AppSumo is where you typically buy, and I don't know if anybody's heard of AppSumo, it's where you typically buy platforms that are just coming out and they're trying to create some hype for it. There's so many, and you get users that actually interact with the developers there in the comments and whatnot, but you get them for a one-time fee, and then you get a lifetime license because they're at the beginning of their career. So if you find potential in a really good platform, check out AppSumo because there's a ton of them on there. I am currently testing out the Blue CRM, and we're using it internally for like kind of our own like internal work, and then external like with the client, with the team. So definitely check out AppSumo. But thank you so much for everybody that tuned in. We are at time here, and I just wanted to say that this wasn't so bad for the first episode in a long time that I did by myself. Just not a fan of just talking and talking for an hour, but I think it went sort of quickly. So thank you so much for everybody that tuned in and had questions and comments. I really appreciate you guys. And thank you so much to the platform at United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 and 107.7 FM. We will see you guys next week. We've got, I believe it's Jesse Cruz that's coming on next week. So stay tuned. I will post it on Instagram so you guys can see what we're talking about. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much, Mel, for the comments saying great information. I'm really glad you guys enjoyed it. Have a wonderful day.